Once upon a time, in a land far away, nestled between snow-capped mountains and a shimmering sea, there was a quiet village called Evergreen. The village was surrounded by the most beautiful forest anyone had ever seen. Trees taller than houses whispered secrets to the winds, and flowers of every color bloomed year-round, even in winter. People in the village called it the Enchanted Forest because strange but wonderful things happened there from time to time. In Evergreen lived a young boy named Elian. He was a curious child, always asking questions and exploring every corner of the village. His favorite thing in the world was to watch the moonlight fall softly on the trees of the Enchanted Forest from his window at night. But one evening, something unusual happened. The moonlight, usually so bright and silvery, vanished from the sky. The moon was still there, but its light was nowhere to be found. Elian couldn't sleep. He tossed and turned in his bed, wondering where the moonlight could have gone. I must find it, he thought to himself, slipping out of bed quietly so as not to wake his parents. He pulled on his shoes, wrapped himself in his warm coat, and tiptoed outside. The forest was different at night. Shadows danced between the trees, and the air was cool and still. Elian felt a mixture of excitement and nervousness as he stepped into the Enchanted Forest. The moon hung high above, pale and dim, casting only a faint glow on the ground. "Moonlight, where are you?" Elian whispered to the night. Suddenly he heard a rustling in the bushes. His heart raced, but then a small, glowing figure emerged from the leaves. It was a tiny creature, no bigger than Elian's hand, with wings that sparkled like stars. It had the face of a young girl, and its voice was soft like a distant breeze. "You're looking for the moonlight, aren't you?" the creature asked, her wings fluttering gently. "Yes," Elian replied. "Do you know where it's gone?" The little creature nodded. "The moonlight has been stolen by the Night King, who lives in the deepest part of the Enchanted Forest. He's taken it for himself because he wants to keep the night forever." Elian's eyes widened. Why would he do that? "He's afraid," the creature said softly. "He's afraid that if the moonlight shines, people will love the day more than the night. So he hides it, thinking he can make the night last forever. But without moonlight, the forest and the village will fall into a deep, endless sleep." Elian felt a flutter of courage in his heart. "Then I'll find the Night King and ask him to give the moonlight back." The creature's wings sparkled brightly as she smiled. "You're brave, Elian. But beware, the Night King's castle is guarded by the silent shadows, creatures who can trap you in their web of dreams. You must stay awake, no matter what they do." With that, the tiny creature flew up into the trees, disappearing into the night, leaving only a faint shimmer behind. Elian took a deep breath and ventured deeper into the forest. The trees grew taller, their branches weaving together like a giant canopy above him. The further he walked, the darker it became, until he could hardly see his own hands in front of him. But then, in the distance, he spotted a faint glow. It wasn't the soft light of the moon, but a cold blue glow, like ice. As Elian moved closer, he realized it was coming from the silent shadows. They stood tall, their dark forms blending into the trees, their eyes glowing with that eerie blue light. They didn't speak, but Elian could feel them pulling him into a dreamlike state, urging him to close his eyes and rest. He shook his head and whispered to himself, "Stay awake, Elian. Don't let them win." He thought of the moonlight, of how it made the forest so magical, and of the people in his village who needed its gentle glow. With every step, he fought off the drowsiness, his determination growing stronger. Finally, he reached the edge of a wide, clear lake. In the middle of the lake stood a castle, dark and towering, with sharp spires that seemed to pierce the sky. It was the Night King's castle, and Elian knew the Moonlight was somewhere inside. There was no bridge to cross the lake, but as Elian stood there wondering what to do, the water began to shimmer. The reflection of the moon on the surface danced, forming a path of light leading straight to the castle gates. Elian stepped onto the path, careful and steady, and made his way across the water. The gates of the castle creaked open as he approached. Inside, it was cold and quiet. The walls were lined with dark curtains, and the only sound was the faint dripping of water echoing through the halls. At the far end of the room sat the Night King, his eyes glowing the same cold blue as the silent shadows. "I know why you've come," the Night King said, his voice deep and smooth like a river at night. Elian stood tall. "I've come to ask you to return the moonlight. The forest and the village need it. Without it, everything will fall asleep forever." The Night King's eyes narrowed. "Why should I? The night is peaceful and quiet. The moonlight will only make people long for the day." Elian took a step closer. "But the night is beautiful because of the moonlight. It's what makes the stars twinkle, what makes the forest glow. Without it, the night will lose its magic." The Night King looked down, his expression softening. "I was afraid," he admitted, "afraid that the moonlight would make the night less special. But perhaps you're right. Perhaps the night and the day can share their beauty." With a wave of his hand, the Night King opened a small chest beside his throne. Inside was the moonlight, swirling like a soft silver mist. He released it into the air, and it floated up out of the castle, through the trees, and into the sky. As the moonlight returned, the forest lit up once more, and the stars twinkled brighter than ever. The silent shadows faded into the night, and peace returned to the land. Elian smiled as the Night King nodded in gratitude. "You were brave, young one," he said. "Now, go home. The night will always welcome you." Elian made his way back through the Enchanted Forest, the moonlight guiding his path. By the time he reached his village, the first hints of dawn were painting the sky. He slipped back into his bed, his heart warm with the knowledge that the moonlight had returned and all was right with the world. And as he drifted into a peaceful sleep, the moon watched over him, its light gentle and kind, just as it had always been.